Yet another beautiful day, despite the snowfalls of pollen that are just coming down everywhere, making myself and my wife incredibly congested due to our allergies.
It's bananas, dude. Like I had a hard time getting through even half of my lawn the other day, like mowing the lawn, because my allergies are just haywire, man, haywire. But I mean, it's the time of the year, and you know what? I will take a nice sunny day with temperate weather over anything. So with that, let's get to our other guest. I know I announced our returning champion first, but tonight we also have our good friend Will Esquire, the suit guy. What's up, man?
How are you? El Nino is dead, so get ready to get hot because it's getting in the 90s next week. You know,
La Nina.
El Nino, and then there's
Mm-hmm.
La Nina, and I couldn't tell
Right,
you I
right.
know the difference, but I know El Nino is dead. I saw a headline today. Anyway, I have a summer
Perfect.
cold, so things are going to be weird. We're making a lot of weird noises. I'm be on that mute button best I can, but if you hear something, I'm sorry it happened.
I'll do my best to not edit anything.
We never do.
We never. To be fair, I mean, there's very minimal editing. Sometimes I take some dead silences out, but that's about it. Like whatever you guys are seeing or hearing on this live stream, if you watch on YouTube, that's what you're getting, man. You're getting raw, uncensored stuff. So, and before we start here, I know we're kind of pressed for time because we got a lot to talk about. We weren't here last weekend. Lots of personal issues and that kind of stuff, and we all couldn't just make it work at the same time. So instead of like one of us or two of us going on, we want to get as many of the core group together as we can to get this taken care of. So sorry for missing you guys last week, but we're going to cover a lot of it like this week, and we'll run through like some of the other games, as quickly as we can. That said, we got to talk about first of all the return of our guy Sam McCann. Um, Sam came back, returned with AC Connecticut. That was the first game that we missed talking about. So Tyson, you want to get us started on that and get us started quickly because they were late.
Yes, they were late. Of course, the AC Connecticut bus broke down on 89, I think somewhere near Waterbury. No, Randolph, excuse me. So it was a late start to the match, but Green started off strong with, I believe they scored 2 goals in the first half, and then just laid on the wood in the second half with 5 goals in uh, the end times for AC Connecticut. It was a great performance. It was some great offensive output. I do feel bad for uh, a Vermont Green legend in Sam McCann, who was starved of service by our stingy defense and midfield. So a great game for us, not a great game for Sam, but we got to have some nice reunion time with him afterwards.
Indeed, he did stop at the boys at the Green Mountain Boys tailgate beforehand because he was already there with his family. And his family, as usual, very nice, very wonderful people, very gracious. His brother sat with us in the stands, did some cheering. It was very nice to get to talk to him before and after the game, and great to give him the props that he deserves as being a legend. He did sign the Legends flag, also known as Flag, which is awesome. But I mean, we got to see some amazing work from our green, and I know Dan talked about it on the Tactics podcast about how Sam was going to have a hard time getting any service just because of the setup that AC Connecticut uses, and Dan kind of called the entire game. But Will, from your perspective, like, what did you? I mean, did you expect the 7-0? I mean, we all know it's a 7-0 behind you right now.
Well, I think I was, and hindsight's 2020. It's been 2 weeks now. I was more bullish that AC Connecticut was going to have a bad time against this team this year. I love Sam McCann. He's a club legend. He did, some amazing things
Yeah.
for us, but he has a smaller build, than you see our back line, with today and our holding midfielders. And so, I kind of felt like unless he was getting really sublime service, he was going to sort of run into a brick wall. And it's kind of exactly what happened. Musa's
Yeah.
back there in the back line. You got Reed Fisher, who is, potentially one of the best center backs we've had so far in our young history of a club. And he didn't even get a sniff on goal. And I just think that, the AC Connecticut game was a really nice culmination of both defense and attack. The game before that, we had struggled to score goals. And, frankly, for a couple games before that, we're struggling to score goals. We put out a really strong back line. The first half was airtight, got 2 goals quickly, but we weren't really putting them to the sword like we needed to. Second half changes come on. Labovitz comes off. Bazzini comes on. I think Bawa comes on. And all of a sudden, we've got a front line of O'Neill, Zengi, and Bazzini. And, they just
O'Neill,
went to
yeah,
work.
and O'Neill was causing trouble all night long. I mean,
as Javi O'Neill he's kind of this season's D'Agostino. He's tricky and he's fast, and I really like what he does. And this was the game where we got to see Musa and Fisher, in the back line along with Pacella and Rodri in holding midfield, and I really think that box of players is probably the best defensive unit we can ever put out on the field. Whatever combination it is, I think it's those 4 players, and we haven't really got to see that since that game. And, we've struggled as far as defense the past 2 games. And, those players haven't been present. So
being able to put Rodri back in there in the middle. And we're going to we're going to talk about the addition of Benny Prego as well. But like being able to put Rodri back in there in the middle, change the dynamic and move Musa back to center back, change the dynamic of almost everything back there. I think that Musa is a guy who on the right side of a center back pairing really, really cooks, man. He really cooks. I mean, he's good in the midfield as a defensive midfielder, but I think he really cooks with a center back, and a center back pairing on the right side with another like outstanding capable. We saw it happen with Nate Jones last year. We're seeing it with Reed Fisher this year. Whether Reed sticks around or not, who knows? But I think I saw some pictures or video of him back at practice. So let's hope that works out. I know he went to a camp in Atlanta, but I think that for me, this game was just like one of those. We needed that type of games. Something to show this team that, give this team a little confidence and show that they can move forward and push forward. So getting through that, because I know we have a lot to talk about with our big main rivals, but we did have a game in between that in the midweek, and that was Albany. So Albany is a different animal altogether, right? So we saw a little bit of rotation. We saw the return of Benny Prego. We saw Drexler in the back. Castillo is back, right? We got to see the debut of Tuali, right? Was that his debut?
It was a truncated debut, is what I'd say.
Yeah, I was going to say, I believe that was his debut, but then, yes, he did go off in the build-up to the first Bazzini goal.
Yep.
Right, yeah. Then we saw our main guys were like a lot of our main guys were on the bench. Javi was on the bench. Labo back from that little injury that kept him out of the second half. We got to see Theo Drennan on the bench, and Zenge was on the bench. Reed Fisher on the bench. Jaim was on the bench. So we did have a rotated squad. Jackson Castro, whom we can talk about too. So I mean, for this game, it was a little bit different animal. We had the big 7-0 win. This game was a little bit tougher of a contest. And I think when you go away from home in a midweek, you're always going to have kind of that little bit of a problem adjusting to the field, the style of play, having just come off a home game win 7-0 in front of in front of nearly packed house, 3,000 people. Like that's a lot of folks that were around. But I think that like winning it was a 2-1. This game for me was kind of emblematic of kind of a letdown after a huge win, right? But again, rotated squad.
I was going to say, I like to think that, yes, this wasn't a, big, massive blowout like the AC Connecticut game, but this was a good workmanlike victory. It was with a heavily rotated squad, being able to get Drexler some more time in there, get Benny Prego back in there. I know that we had some not too, let's call it some apathetic words for Sam Layton when he won his Man of the Match maple syrup a couple games ago. But you know what? He was really, really good up there with Rodri. This was, providing kind of a bigger shield to the defense. In the midfield, it wasn't as attacking a lineup as we can and normally do put out. But, credit I believe, still the current golden boot holder of the USL2, Yaniv Bizzini, for getting his two goals.
No, I mean, let's discuss Bizzini a little bit because it's a little slow start to the season, right? He came in a little bit late, one or two games late. But he goes out there and does what he does. We had somebody to spell him when last year in Nacho when needed. This isn't a type of guy who absolutely needs the rest. But I mean, I think he's just one of these guys who wants to be out there at all times. But we got to get him the rest. Pfeiffer's got to get him the rest because when he's rested and he's ready to go, he can come on and make a difference in the second half of a game like he did against AC Connecticut. He can come in a starting position and make a difference. He's big, he's strong, he tracks back, he plays defense. Like he does everything, and he for me is so far man of the season, player of the season, without a doubt. And he shows why. He doesn't shy away from contact. He doesn't shy away from getting into the mix ever, right? He always wants to be on the ball. He always wants to be there, and that's endearing to a fan like me and to, I think, an entire fan base. And that's why when asked, like, I think his hat trick goal was, like, for me, the culmination of like of an entire night in AC Connecticut, and then continuing that, in the next two games. Like he's our guy. They're going to start calling us the Bizzini team.
Yeah, I mean, he is the guy, right? I mean, for the team as far as goal scoring, threat, and attacking. His finishing is by far and away, the best asset that he has. We've seen, earlier this season made some complaints that he's not a good runner with the ball and more of like a false nine to finish. But, he made a couple, runs into the box to finish at distance, the past couple of games. And so he's definitely been supplying from areas he wasn't at the start of the season. I just look at Albany as it was a good win based on the lineup we put out. It was, and I know we were playing a lot of games in a row there. We had a game on the 5th, we had a game on the 8th, we had a game on the 11th, but there was a lot of rotation, and I just wonder if Albany deserved a stronger lineup. And that's always going to be the question. I mean, you can't ask that question too hard because we ended up winning the game, and we rested players, and so all in all, coaching team did their job with that. But it was a nervy match to watch, I mean, especially when they came back and scored in the second half. I'm sure we were all waiting for that final whistle to go. So, it just seems like there is definitely an amount of drop off between the players I'd prefer to start and perhaps some of our rotation options this year that maybe in a way we haven't seen as much, in previous seasons. Not starting Zangi, not starting Fisher. Those are if it's rotation, fine. If it's trying something new, fine. But that concerns me. And maybe we're just trying to find other options if players like Fisher can't stay the whole season. I don't know. It's a different field than last year potentially. I mean, teams seem tougher this year, and is that a reflection of this is a really fun division to play in because we've got 3 huge teams, or is this a reflection of our team being different than it's been last 2 years? I don't know. So I can't complain too much. We're 5-1-1, but we are kind of we're the top build division, I would imagine. As far as storylines go, look at all the other USL2 divisions. There's nothing like 3, of the top 10 ranked teams in the whole, league in one division battling it out. So, I mean, we've all of a sudden walked into being the best division USL2, honestly.
And I think that's a lot of thanks in part to what Vermont Green has brought, because, a lot of divisions out there have 2 teams, and you're always going to have the Lions Bridges and the Ballards, and Long Island. Right. So those teams are always going to be there. And historically they have been, it took a little bit for Western Mass and to come up through the ranks and make that program a big program the way it is. And with us being the darlings kind of the U.S. amateur soccer leagues, I mean, we are world renowned, whether people like it or not. And I know for a fact that we have a fan in Norway who is it Norway? Yeah, I think Norway that listens. I mean, he happens to be the dad of one of the players, but that's okay. So no trash talking Drexler on this podcast. But
shout out Norway,
Yeah. So I mean, and I know that there are people that listen to us and follow the team from everywhere, from England to Ireland to Australia, even the Philippines. We've heard so. I mean, we're a fun team to watch, right? And I think we bring a lot to the table as far as this division goes. And for my money, right now, we could be staring at 2 wins, 3 wins, and I'd still be out there having fun watching this team. So I think it is like what you said. I think it's a little bit of everything, a little bit of both. What you said, it is a little bit of this team being built differently. We're still built to control the ball in the midfield. We're still built to be able to ship balls away, in the back line, and have those center backs have those attacking wing backs, or inverted wing backs, however Pfeiffer uses them, that can carry the ball, that can still come back, track back, play defense. I think this team, I mean, it's a little bit of that, and I think it's a little bit of the fact that everybody in response to what Vermont Green has done, in response to what Western Mass has done, and even Space Glass, whatever they're doing there with their anti football, it seems to be working. Which I think everybody is taking note and saying, now there are 3 teams, we better up our game. We can't just sit on our laurels, and everybody, is really putting it out there this year. But Tyson, you have any thoughts on that whole subject?
I mean, I think that it is very easy for us to say, hey, look at Vermont. Like you said, we're the bright, shiny new toy in the USL. They get lots of press coverage because we're a fun, happening team to write about. But there are two other big heavy hitter teams. Space Ghost and Western Mass have been around for a while. Western Mass has been around since the mid 90s doing this kind of stuff. And, when you have that kind of institutional knowledge of what you're doing, how you want to play the game, that does give you a big advantage over teams like Vermont. We're new. Yeah, we do have an established style that we like to play. But there are times when I kind of look at our squad and I'm like, yeah, it's big. Yeah, it's very talented. But, like, how many strikers do we have playing for our team? Like 8 that we have signed up that are on the roster. It has to be challenging to try and make sure that, because this is, at the end of the day, this is a college development program for guys to come out, maintain their match sharpness, try and get themselves geared up to eventually turn pro. At the end of the day, Vermont is about providing people opportunities to go and showcase what you've got to show. There's probably no way that we would ever play the exact lineup every single week, game in and game out. And that's just something that I have to, tuck away in the back of my head when I'm sometimes taking a look at the lineups and thinking, oh, why isn't this guy playing? Why isn't Windshower out there? Why isn't Fisher out there? Just something to keep in the back of my mind.
It's a great point, Tyson, because you're right. This is USL 2, and I think that we all have aspirations of it being more. But perhaps the USL 2 benchmark really is fan engagement and commercial success, because we can start talking about the professional obligation to put out your best lineup every single game when they're professionals and they're paid. So it's a fair point. It's not going to stop us from taking it real seriously. I mean, we do a podcast after all, but perhaps that conversation is more suited to, what does success and, league position look like in 5 to 10 years if the club can continue to grow. So it's well taken. It really is.
I'm not going to go too much longer on this, but like, it's clear that we all have like our own reasons. Like the three of us, and the creator, even the creator who can't be here today, unfortunately. We all have our own take and our own reasons for loving the team. But I think at the end of the day, like there aren't any reasons that people love this club and love this team that are not valid. For whatever reason, somebody might like this team because, hell, it's a great time to get out on a Saturday night and get some food truck food, right? I hear that Church Street Cheesesteaks is going to be there and they're going to provide some great cheesesteaks, or, I think that for whatever reason that people come out to love this club is their own. And I think that there are no invalid reasons for that. And I think that's what makes Vermont just this amazing, this amazing club to watch. Other clubs have their reasons, like, but nobody gets crowds like we do. Western Mass gets pretty good crowds, but still, it's still not the crowd that we get. And I think that the way that the founders have built this is just, I think they've built it as if they were building a large professional team from the ground up. And I think it works. I think it works. I think it plays, and I think it's a blueprint for the way that the USL 2 should handle any kind of fan engagement and any kind of expansion in the future.
Well, I mean, it's a bit of a a hidden gem. Not a hidden gem. It's a bit of a perfect scenario because it is Burlington. I mean, it's a small city with a big town attitude, and the fact that we're able to hold the attention of people for a semi-pro sports league, is kind of, unheard of in a lot of ways. But I would say the other thing I'd say is there is one invalid reason to support the Vermont Green. It's if you enjoy the away streams, because holy shit, are these away streams fucking terrible. It kills me. Albany Rush was okay. Someone was definitely just on an iPhone or an iPad using the auto zoom. Whatever. It worked well enough. But let's transition.
We could hear the players on the field.
You hear the players on the field. But you know what I can't stand is whatever bullshit that C++, whatever you want to call them, the team we all hate. Let's move into this. They had the worst stream.
That's a great segue, by the way.
As good as they are on the field and playing shitty, boring Man City football or whatever, Stoke lump it long, their stream is so poor. And I don't understand the attraction to playing there when you've got teams like Vermont in a much more fun area playing with huge crowds. And I guess that's just the pedigree of the program, but it blows my mind.
What pisses me off about the whole thing, and before we get into talking about the match, what pisses me off about the whole thing is that this is a club whose youth programs, and I say programs because there are 3 different programs in New Hampshire. There are like 3 or 4 different programs in Massachusetts. There's definitely 3 programs in Maine. I mean, my son's team is going up to the C minus United tournament that they hold up in Maine every year. They told us it was being held in Portland, and because it had been moved because the place that we were playing in Brunswick said because I don't like them. They would not let them play. I'm not going to even mention that. Your games will not be played there anymore. We're going to be playing in Portland. We all got hotels in Portland, and guess where our fucking games are? Brunswick. So I'm sorry for the swears. I don't like them, but my point is that to not be able to provide a decent stream with at least some sort of sound or commentary with the money that they're pulling in, they don't care about their USL2 team. I'm sorry, they don't. They're using that as a way to pull in money for their academies, they're saying, or vice versa. Their club teams are bringing in all kinds of money. They have the money to put into their USL2 team, but they're like the Chicago Cubs. It doesn't matter if they're doing well or not. They're just going to be there. Right? They're never going to cross the threshold of being champions. I mean, sure, they've won the division, but they won the division with what you just said, shitty anti-Jose Mourinho dump and chase football. And that's where we're going to begin talking about Seafoam. Tyson, take it away.
Some people just...
Sorry about the rant.
Some people just like to be villains. For everyone out there who, loves a good Disney princess, there are people who, look up to Gaston. They want to be him. You know what? The team for them, it's Sea Scum. That's where they go. It is... And you know what? The thing that sucks the most, and the thing that always sucked the most about all the Mourinho teams, is that there are really good players on this team. Craig Healy, a great striker who plays for Seacoast. And
-1.
Damn it. Okay, penalized. I see that point. Yes, Sea Goats, Space Coast. I'm making it up. There are some really, really talented players on this team, and it's just straight up anti-football. There's a reason why they have no fans. Yes, they win a lot of games, and it's just, you know, why would you want to play this way when you could play some beautiful, attractive, attacking footy?
Well,
That's
I
all.
mean, how do they have no fans? I mean, half of New Hampshire plays soccer in their developmental programs, and they can't get anybody to go to that chemical waste storage facility they call a field. Like, we all saw the stream. They're playing between two buildings. What is going on? It just drives me crazy. And they beat us. And they beat us. You know, I won't say fair and
Playing behind a
square.
prison fence.
Playing behind a prison. I don't get it. I don't get what's up with it. They don't have fans. Perhaps the perspective to the players are it's like, look, you can play with the same program from when you're 5 to when you're going to pro. We're gonna have a place for you. I guess that's some sort of concept for them, but it just and to get into the game, I mean, that really was a game that was won and lost in the first half. I mean, they just sucker punched us with long balls and finishing the box. And honestly, I couldn't tell half the time that anybody scored because the stream was just so horrendously bad. But what a frustrating experience that game was.
Yeah, so let's get into it. I mean, um, we brought out our some of our big guns. Obviously, we were without Reed, so Drexler got in there, and I know we said no talking trash, but I mean he didn't have his best game. Let's just put it that way. It's really really hard when the way that we play. It kind of plays into the hands of a team like that. I mean, it happened with the way Western Mass played last year was the same exact way. It was like, they have quality players, but they don't let the quality players shine. So what happens is that they're going to sit back and they're going to play a mid-low block to a low block, and then they're just going to hoof the ball out to a streaking winger or a streaking center forward. And the way that we play, push up a lot. We hold the high defensive line when we're on the attack, and it generally works. But when you're playing a team like this, it's very hard when you have speedy wingers that can get out there and run you down. And maybe they weren't prepared enough for it, or maybe they just weren't ready, or it could have been like what I said before, is like when you go to play an away game in midweek, that's really tough on you. You get kind of thrown out of your routine. You got to get on a bus. You got to travel to shithole Epping, New Hampshire,
Not
and
the Seacoast.
which is not the seacoast that they claim to be living in.
Frauds.
All of them. But so we put out some players, right? Gabe was out there, Musa was out there, Drexler was out there, Chavi and Zach were out there, right? Jackson Castro, and I know we got some stuff to talk about with this game, but like we put out a lineup that could compete, and for me, like watching this game, the first half, we were just as attacking. We had as many opportunities and chances as the other team, and I think that we were probably more dangerous. I mean, you can say what you want. I know it's been reported a couple of times that it was a back and forth game. I don't think it was as much of a back and forth game. It was a back and forth in the fact that like we would attack. And we weren't able to have some quality in the final third, and then the ball was shipped out to a speedy winger. Like, so yeah, it bounced back and forth, much like the US versus Brazil was last night, right? Like counterattack if you can, right? And they did, and then the ball came back to us and we went on attack again, and the ball got kicked out again. Like we just didn't have the quality in the final third, we go down 2-0 pretty quickly, and it seemed pretty easily from those counterattacks. And then they just sat back and defended. We pulled one back, and then immediately, what a garbage fucking goal. What a garbage goal. For me, the real problem came, and I know we don't on United and Green here. We don't like to call out USL2 refs because they're USL2 refs. They're not, they're not Premier League. They're not even like MLS or League One, refs. They are guys who probably have full-time jobs, guys who are there for an extra paycheck, guys who love the game of soccer. This guy might have loved the game of soccer, but he did not know how to referee a soccer game. His sideline refs didn't help him out at all either. There's a real problem when there are blatant handballs and the referee, it happened twice. There was one that was egregious, but it happened twice. There were two handballs. There was one that was very egregious, and I'm being told that when Zach Zengai tried to argue with the referee told him, "Don't try to argue with me if you don't know the rules." And then he tried to explain the rules, saying that the reason that he did not call handball was because the player did not have time to react. Nowhere in the rule does it say that a man has to have time to react. In fact, the rule states that it doesn't matter whether he has reaction time or not. If his arm is in an unnatural position and it hits his hand or his arm below the sleeve, that is a handball. It's a cut and dry rule. My problem came with his explanation to our players of that rule, and he misinterpreted it because he didn't know the rule, and then took it out on our players because of that. At that point, it could have very well been 1-1 in the game, and the game might not have gotten away from us.
It's the Premier League handball drama is making its way over to USL2. VAR won't help us either. It certainly hasn't helped the Premier League at all in terms of establishing a clear and obvious handball. Like you said, we try not to dump on the refs as much as we can. They're not full-time professional referees. You always expect some things to be missed. That some things will be missed, but when a clear and obvious handball, as well as a clear and obvious goal that the goalie pulled out from behind his own line, you expect the big things to get called.
Right.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't. It's a really hard thing to talk about because at the end of the day, the comeback is always like, well, if you guys scored more goals and kept, more goals out, then it wouldn't be a problem. But there are these moments where the conduct missed is so egregious that you have to bring it up. And missing two handballs in the box and missing a ball that went over the line was a goal on that stream. We saw it and it wasn't addressed. And, I'm frustrated with the handballs more than the ball going over the line because there are no cameras, there are no replays.
Right.
The refs and the linesmen could have missed that. But where we know that the refs saw the handballs and decided to interpret the rules differently, that's really frustrating.
There's no interpreting differently. He wasn't interpreting the rule differently. It wasn't like he looked at the rule and said, "Oh, I see it this way." No, he got the rule absolutely 100% wrong. There's no misinterpretation. There's no like, oh, well, it says the sleeve, but his sleeves are shorter. So we're going to say that's part of the arm, or we're going to say that's not part of the arm, right? That's a misinterpretation. This is not a misinterpretation. The rule clearly states that it does not matter. I mean, I'll pull it up if you want me to, and I can read it.
No, I believe it.
But,
and just to be clear, I mean, this is not about local bias entirely because we have slagged off refs from our own stands all the time. We complain all the time about the quality of the USL2 ref is just that. It's semi-pro players, basically semi-pro referees.
Right.
And these things do happen. but it's extremely frustrating when it costs you an opportunity to win the game. And because that's what this was. These are 2 chances, 3 chances to get back in the game, make it different. We lost those opportunities. They're violations that result in penalty kicks. We didn't get to have those. That really sucks, and there's no remedy and there's no consequence, but that is the reality. It sucks.
Do we think that the USL2 has a, postseason referee review process, or do we think it's, hey, you want a $60 stipend and you can go and drive out to bumfuck Epping, New Hampshire for, a couple hours and
Epping.
hey,
Epping. There's no G. Epping.
There's a G.
Oh no, there's a G. They don't pronounce it. They don't pronounce it.
Well, we're going to fight about local names. Let's go. Tyson, to answer your question, no, there's no review program.
I mean, come on.
These guys are playing refereeing peewee soccer matches, on the other days. It's like it just is. Unfortunately, we've talked.
And then
about
on Friday nights, they're umpiring the beer league softball.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before in previous seasons. The reality is, because it's USL2, sometimes the refs are just gonna suck, and it happened against our biggest rival at their stadium, and that's just an unfortunate.
And it happened against Western Mass last year. Same thing. Yeah. So I mean, this referee. So I'm not going to call him out by name because I don't know his name. However,
and that's the only reason you won't call him out by name.
However, I do have this microphone right here, so I'm going to say what I want to say right now. I've been given some information that this referee will be the referee for our forthcoming game.
Oh, against Western Mass?
Yes.
Wait, so he travels from Epping to Burlington? Okay.
Well, you're obviously not from here because it's not Burlington. It's Burlington.
First of all, I am a Flatlander. I think everybody knows this. So it is what it is. We'll get past it. But
we'll allow it, sir.
I just assumed this guy. Counselor. I just assumed this guy lived in like the middle of nowhere, New Hampshire. But if he's driving that far, good on him. But if he is the same guy, and we're going to need to pull up some video to confirm this, we are going to give him a rough ride on Saturday. I'll tell you what.
So all that aside, okay, we got that off our chest. All that aside, I think that Vermont did what they needed to do. I think that the referee let the game get away from him. In the immediate aftermath, I wanted to come on and just do a quick reaction pod. Cooler heads prevailed, and I did not do that. But like when a referee does let a game get away from them the way that this fella did, that tends to make the game a little tougher on the team that seems to be getting abused. And I'm not saying that he won't do that to, say, Boston City versus Boston Bolts, right? If he were there. I mean, crappy referees are crappy referees everywhere they go. It doesn't matter whether it's us, whether it's Western Mass, whether it's Lionsbridge, any of the big teams, any of the small teams. Crappy referees are crappy referees everywhere they go. And there is a lack of refereeing talent out there, especially at the lower levels. It happens. But when a referee lets the game get away from them the way they do, it makes it tougher for the team, especially the visiting team who's kind of on the short end of the stick. Like I said, I want to do a quick reaction pod, and I'm glad I didn't because I had some conspiracy theories that I wanted to peddle. I'll leave that to my Wicked Spursy partner, Steve. He loves to go in his conspiracy corner. We can talk to Steve another time about that kind of stuff. But this game, I think that Vermont had some, like I said before, had some tough luck defending. I don't know that they were fully prepared for what was coming at them with what happened to be a strong counterattack. I think the same thing happened to Western Mass a few days earlier against this team. You know, and I think that the next time we play, when we're at home, our team has a friendly crowd that I think it's going to be a little bit different. We just weren't able to do the things that we would normally do in the final third on set pieces, that kind of stuff. But, you know, I mean, in the end, shit happens. It's one loss where it's not like we're at the bottom of the barrel. We're back down in the third. It's fine. It's fine. You know, as Kevin Bacon said in Animal House, all is well.
Well, I think that I don't have a lot left to say on the shit game, other than
Roger also got a red card, so
Roger got a red
Yes.
card, and that is really damaging for this weekend. And we can get into that. But what I would say is that shit is a very well coached team, and they played Mourinho football, and they sucker punched us playing a high line, playing hero football, and we lost. And it definitely feels like teams that get a new manager in, and then they want to play protagonist football, and it doesn't go their way when a experienced team comes up against them at home. You know, these games do happen. It's not a death knell for the season. And I know early in the season we complained that we had to play these teams twice, West Mass and shit, twice, and they only play each other once. Or we had to play them 4 times, they play each other twice. But that's more opportunities for us to put points in front of them. So, you know, if we want to look at this positively and grow, you know, we have 2 home games left against these 2 teams. We have an away game against Western Mass. You know, we can make ground. So season's not done. This can be a learning opportunity. And we got to look forward to Saturday for a huge home game. I know we're all jonesing for. I don't know who would miss this game.
I don't either.
Yeah, who would miss this game?
Who would miss it?
Yeah, no. Who would miss it?
I know someone who cares about their children. That too.
Yeah, that's true. I do care about my children. We will be playing in the gold division of the U12s in the Sea Blast tournament this weekend up in Maine. I think it's going to be a good time. We get to play 3 of their teams in our division. 1 from New Hampshire, 1 from Massachusetts, 1 from Maine, all Premier Elite. That's what they're called, the Premier Elite New Hampshire, Premier Elite Massachusetts, Premier Elite Maine. So we'll see what happens. I hope the orange team beats the pants off of those kids. I don't like to trash on little kids that often, but I would love to trash on this club, and I hope that we win this tournament.
Well, because they'll be Seacoast players one day, so they already have that. They were born with that original sin. So I didn't say United, but anyway,
that's okay. You still said it. Anyway. So moving on to the weekend, we're through with this. We're going to move on to the weekend. This is the most important game of the season so far. Both teams have lost in recent days to the previously mentioned club. We have the Western Mass Pioneers from Ludlow, Massachusetts, coming to Burlington, Vermont, Virtue Field Saturday. It's going to be a great day for the fans. It's going to be a great day for. I should have saved this for the end. Wow!
Guess what? This might be the end. So just go for it.
So yeah, we got Western Mass coming in. What do you guys think is going to happen? Like, obviously, Roger's going to be out for this game. We're hopefully looking at Reed Fisher coming back. I think if Rodri's out, the way I would play, I would move Musa up into Rodri's space. I would put Drexler back there with Reed Fisher. I think Drexler's another player who can benefit hugely is the word, hugely, from somebody like Reed being next to him. I think Reed is one of those players, one of those center back players that just works well with his center back partnership. And I think that Vermont in this position would defend superbly, and would be able to get their attacking sense back. And I think we're going to throw a lot at them. I think it's going to be tough for Western Mass to play against us because they're going to, from what I saw in their game against the New Hampshire team, was that they seem this year to play a little more wide open. I don't know if they're going to play that way against Vermont. They haven't in the past. They didn't last year in either game, hit us on counterattacks. But I think, like, from what I saw of them this year already, it seems to me that they're going to play a little more wide open. And if they do, it's going to play right into our hands because we're going to control the midfield. And if there are no passing lanes to the midfield, they're going to make them play on the outside. And I don't think they're going to be able to do that against the likes of like Gabe Threadgold and Betty Prego. It's just not going to happen for them. And I think that guys like Zenge and Xavi O'Neill can take advantage of that. Sam Layton, I think Sam Layton is actually starting to play into this team, and I think he's really starting to catch fire. And I think that we have a lot of midfield players and a lot of forwards that are going to start catching fire, and it's going to be exciting for us for the rest of the season. That said, Will looks like what are you doing there? I was going to say you looks like you got something to say, but
no, I mean, I always have something to say. I am.
He was like, boop.
I'm sorry, I've got this cold, but anyway, I'm excited for this game. I think Vermont Green put a lot of effort into home games to give us, the best performance they can. I expect the strongest version of our lineup. Hopefully Pacella's back. I think he's nursing some sort of injury or sickness. Rodri's going to be out, and that is unfortunate, picking up that red card. But I expect a strong showing and a raucous crowd. So I am cautiously optimistic because if we win this game, it's pole position, at least for one of the guaranteed playoff spots. So it really is a crucial game to win at home against, an absolute rival. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. But it's going to be – these are the games that we appreciate as fans because it's a home game on a beautiful summer evening against some of the best competition. And, this is the reason that we enjoy the club in the first place. So super exciting for a million reasons, but this is the big one. So we'll see how it goes.
I mean, I totally agree with what Bill said. Western Mass is obviously the other big team in our division that we actually like, unlike the team from New Hampshire. I really think that the boys in green are going to be very motivated to get a result in this game. I would love to see Western Mass play a little bit more open, a little bit more susceptible to some of the marauding runs that our wingers and wing backs can go and provide. I think that the opportunity is going to be there for Bizzini to do some marauding runs off the shoulder of the central defenders. And the ability for us to, like Will said, really just grab pole position in second place in this division with a solid showing in this game is key. We have a wonderful goal difference in the league thus far. Every little bit helps when we're trying to go and either grab that second place and guaranteed playoff spot, or I believe that a third place finish in our division puts us into a pool with a couple of other divisions where best goal difference, best points per game.
Points per game.
Yes, points per game gives you the go ahead into the playoffs. So this game, of course, like we were saying a couple podcasts ago, this is the final game in the kind of mid-June trifecta between these three teams that will really kind of lay the blueprint for what the Green need to do over the rest of the season.
Absolutely. There's one other game that we're going to play before we return. We've talked about them at length. AC Connecticut, we're going to be playing them away. That'll be Tuesday, June 18th at 6 p.m. Catch them on probably a non-existent stream. But such is the world of streaming games in the USL too. That's fine. I just wanted to mention that we are going to be playing them before we meet up again. And then, I'm hoping from these two games we take at least 4 points. I'm not making any predictions this time because my predictions are shit. So, all that said, let's do some housekeeping right now. Some marketing, if you will. We're United Green Podcast. We are partnered with the Blazy Musket. The Blazy Musket is a soccer website. They serve New England soccer. They do a great job of reporting on USL Championship teams. Our own Vermont Green. They do a little bit of stuff with Western Mass and Space Post as well. But they focus on Vermont Green. They focus on Hartford Athletic, Rhode Island FC, and the New England Revolution of the MLS. So they do some great work. They do have a free subscription and a paid tier. If you can, please get out there, support their awesome writers. They provide a great service. They have a lot of great stuff behind that paywall. So get out there and subscribe to them if you can. If not, just toss them a subscription on the free. Other than that, you can find United in Green on all of your favorite podcast platforms. If you need that Apple code, just give us a shout on Instagram. We'll be able to get that for you so you can download on Apple too, because they're still not playing nice with us. And I just don't think that they will, but that's perfectly fine. Another bump in the road for Vermont Green fans. That's okay. We'll get over it. But you can find us on all your podcast platforms. You can find us on Instagram, and your dad and your uncle can find us on Facebook, where we don't post. So all that said, we're going to get into final thoughts here. So I'm going to start with, let's flip the coin. Tyson.
So as much as we are all looking forward to a great game at Virtue Field against Western Mass, I know we've talked about it. It's going to be big. You know what else I'm really fucking excited for is the very first inaugural women's match happening on Saturday, June 22nd. We got to see some promo pics of Coach Sam Mewis in Vermont Green apparel. She looks fired up. I am fired up. I think that is going to be a great time. I can't wait until the Green are able to hopefully put out a full women's team that competes regularly. That would just be kind of the crown jewel of the Vermont soccer scene.
We'd be doing a lot more tailgating.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Will, your turn, buddy.
It's tough to overshadow the fact that we have Sam Mewis involved with the club. I mean, that is just one of the coolest things. I mean, I remember watching every game of the Women's World Cup, and she played 6 of 7, including the entirety of the final. And I don't think we can really stop talking about it enough that we've got a legend of the game and a legend of the women's game involved with the club.
At points,
she was the
number one player in the world at points. Like that's pretty baller, dude.
And she's choosing to tie her name to our tiny little silly USL2 semi-pro team. And who knows
God
where it's
bless-
going to go from there. It's just the coolest thing. I mean, we can't stop talking about it. And Sam
Bless her
Kerr
heart.
may
Bless
have been
her
around.
heart.
Sam Kerr may have been around with her the last month, and we didn't spot her, but you know, it's just
not
cool.
saying anything. Maybe just visiting a friend and you know, in a beautiful house in a beautiful state. You know, who knows?
Who knows? But
Who knows?
it's-
Who knows
it's-
what the future holds for the Vermont Green women's team?
It's so emblematic of Vermont Green for the biggest name to be tied to our club to be a woman's legend. I just think that's great.
It's bananas. It's bananas to me.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine like the scenes that we're gonna have at Virtue Field for that. And that said, speaking of the Vermont Green women's team, my final thoughts are going to be these, and I'm glad we're talking about this in our final thoughts, because next week on United and Green, you're going to want to come and see our podcast live, because we do have one of our own, a Vermont legend, a UVM soccer legend, a Otter Valley High School legend. Olivia White, Liv White, is going to be with us here live on the podcast next week. And we're going to get to talk to her and get to talk to her about her experience coming onto this women's team. And I'm very excited because she's from my hometown in Vermont. So it's very exciting for me. So you're going to want to come listen to that podcast or see us live, because it's going to be a great time. We're going to talk about the two games that we played before on the men's side, and then we're going to get into some serious talk about the women's game and what we're going to expect from this team playing against the Northerners, the women coming down from the north. So north of the wall, in fact, probably. So, yeah, that was a Game of Thrones reference. I'm sorry. That was pretty bad. Anyway, so until the next time, and hopefully you guys will join us. My name is Mike. We have Will and Tyson today. It's been a great chat. Always love talking with you guys, and we'll see you guys next Thursday, same bat time, same bat channel. And until then, up the green.
Up the green.
Up the green.